I am Erin Boyle. And on the call, I also have Stella. She's going to do our technical portion of the demo of the presentation today. And I also have on Charlene, and she will be following up with you all with the recording after the webinar is finished. Give you a quick overview about Marquee 360 if you're not familiar with us already. Talk about Planner, Microsoft's newest project management tool, our Planner Accelerator, PPM360. What's new, and then Stella's going to give us a demo and we're going to have Q&A. And I just want to say throughout the presentation, please feel free to raise your hand or unmute and ask your questions. This is for you to get the most out of this session, so please feel free to be interactive as much as you'd like. So a little bit about Marquee 360. We are a Microsoft Gold Partner for Project and Portfolio Management, and we've won Partner of the Year finalists 3 years in a row. And our team is built up of industry veterans, and what that means is from our owners to developers, sales team, we've all worked within the Microsoft project management space, project solutions for combined of over 25 years. So we've seen Project Server, switch to Project Online, and now Project for the Web, and now Planner. So we're very in tune with what's going on in the Microsoft space. So our core focus as a company is to be close with the Microsoft team and make sure that you are getting and our customers are getting the most innovation possible. So our solutions are staying up to date with their roadmap and we're following along with all the development that they're doing. And a lot of that right now is done with the Power Platform and Planner, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We focus a lot on customer success. So when we do an implementation, we do a lot of requirements gathering to make sure that what the solution that we're implementing follows your business processes and that you're getting as efficient a solution as possible that matches with your team. And along with that, we do have workshops, training, and support. So 90% of our customers sign up for support contract after they do an implementation with us, so that if they have need extra training, any customizations after their implementation, they have that and they can just fill out a support ticket and be in tune with our team. So we definitely work right alongside our customers as a partner. And to give you a little bit more of an idea of our actual solutions that we have. So we have two Planner accelerators. One is a light version and one is a pro version. Today we're going to talk about the pro version. We can also, because this is built using the Power Platform, we can take some of the functionality from the accelerator and build it out. So if your team isn't ready for the full accelerator, or maybe you have a tool that you already use, we can take just one or two of our applications and add those to your system, and it just makes getting up and running with them really fast because they're prepackaged solutions. We also have integrations with the Power Platform. It makes it much easier for us to integrate with other third-party applications as well. So as Stella goes through her demo, you'll see some of these pieces throughout PPM360, the full accelerator. So Microsoft Planner is Microsoft's newest tool for project and portfolio management, and they're really putting a lot of their R&D into building out the capabilities within Planner. When it was first introduced, it was lacking a little bit of functionality that some bigger PMOs needed. So as time goes on, it's almost weekly, daily that they're adding more and more functionality into this tool. And it is built on top of the Power Platform, so it gives you a lot more flexibility to be able to scale the tool yourself. But if you don't have developers, or you need some you just want a pre-configured solution to accelerate some of the capabilities in Planner, we do have PPM360. So what PPM360 includes is an intake, project governance, workflows. It's built within Teams, integrated with Teams, so you can manage all of your project details within Teams, so you don't have to switch back and forth. We have a robust resource management tool, so you can do skills, roles. We have a financials tool, so you can do more in-depth budgeting, timesheets, and reports and dashboards. So our reports come with 15 pre-configured, and that just grabs all of your project data from Power BI, but you can see it within the PPM360 tool. So our goal is always to make sure that you're not having to switch back and forth between views. You can view all of these within PPM360. Okay. And so we just launched our PPM360 version 15, and we take a lot of customer feedback from whether it's Microsoft, some gaps that they're seeing with Planner, or just by using our PPM360 tool, some requests that they have. And so we build out an updated version, and Stella is going to go through and show all these and talk about why they're important, and show just how we're making customers' lives even easier. I'm going to hand it over to Stella.
Hey everyone, really excited to go through some of our new features today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and we can go ahead and get started. So this webinar is called What's New in PPM 360. So here at Marquee 360, we are always working on improving our solution as much as possible. So over the past couple of months, we've taken a lot of, ideas, customer ideas, a lot of our internal ideas from architects internally, and we've applied those to our solution. So we're going to be reviewing today. It's called PPM 360, but internally we kind of reference this as our V15 environment. So it's like our upgraded, solution. So now what you guys will get, considered out of the box is everything that we've applied with our enhancements now. So there's going to be a lot of new workflows involved, a lot of new UI looking changes. So we're going to go through those today. I will be specifically highlighting like this part is now new for those of you who are familiar with PPM 360, and for those of you who are not, if you have questions along the way about any functionality, please feel free to speak up or drop it in the chat. We do welcome questions, and we're going to have plenty of time for them today. So I'm sharing my screen here, and what we're seeing is the PPM 360 home dashboard. Here I have some nice views of all the project data that lives in here. So I have a nice all plans, projects by type, projects by date, projects by overall health, programs by business unit, and programs by overall health. So great overview here. Everything we're going to see here, I want to note, is also customizable during the requirements phase. So we have a very detailed, it's about 70-page document that even goes into what do you want to see here. So we call these tiles, and you would essentially choose what kind of data you want to display. So for example, if projects by type wasn't important for your team, if projects by department was important, we would show that instead. Now I want to note here we have an area for project requests. When I click here, it's going to open in a new tab here, and this is our intake application. This is what Erin mentioned earlier on when she was talking about the different areas. This marks the ideation phase of the project lifecycle. It's an area for users to come and submit project requests or ideas. Using this, now this is, as you can see, it was outside. The users can also choose to have this embedded into the screen, so you never actually leave and go to another one. However, this obviously is going to give you a little bit more real estate to submit your requests and all. We also have here, I also want to note here that this is built on a SharePoint data set. And the reason why we do that is because that way users who are submitting project requests don't need that plan license. They just need a Microsoft 365 license, and they need that shared with them, or therefore given the correct permission So we're not going to go into this too much today, but we can see here, we have the request. I've submitted one request here. Approvers would see all requests, of course. We have a lot of options here. So if you are interested in seeing a demo on our intake application, please feel free to reach out to Charlene or Aaron to go ahead and get that demo scheduled. Now back in PPM360 here, after a project would go through the PPM360, the intake cycle, and it's approved, the project would automatically be created in this tool here, PPM360. Now, alternatively, projects can also be created directly in PPM360. So for instances where you may not, projects for sure going to be a project, it doesn't even need to go through the ideation life cycle, or you may have instances where, you're not at that point yet where you're doing ideas, we just know it's going to be a project off the bat, then it wouldn't even make sense for you to necessarily have intake. This is my dashboard. We talked about project requests. Here's an area for approvals. So as I mentioned before, we're going to have a lot of different Power Automate approvals, right? So we have intake approvals, a lot of different approvals we can see here. And as we can see here, these are ones that were received versus ones that were sent here. And I can see here the status, and I can come in here and approve them directly from here as well, or reject as well. Once again, this area can be embedded into this area here. That way it doesn't open in a new screen. Now, if we go to plans here, we're going to see my active plans by default. We also have some other views here, such as all plans. So I can see all plans in the system here. Now, what's great about this view is users can they have these views here that once again, you determine what shows on these during the requirements phase, but we also have these abilities to create our own custom views. So as you can see here, this view has a little view here called like a little person. So basically you can see here where I may have altered the view a little bit. Users can create their own custom view by selecting edit columns, add columns, and adding fields here. They can then rearrange them in different orders, apply, and that view would show there. Now to create a new plan, I'll select a new plan from here, but we're going to go ahead and just look at our current plan. I'm going to click into my plan here, and I can see on the summary tab that I have a lot of different information regarding my project. Now, once again, this is going to vary from company to company, right? So what might be critical for one company may not be critical for another. Therefore, once again, during the requirements phase, we would track what fields are important for your team. Those fields will be determined for the summary tab here. As you can see here, I can link this to a parent project or another project that of mine. So this is July webinar, for example. I also am the project manager assigned here. This is an AD lookup field, as you can see here. And then we have this business unit field as well. I also can create a Microsoft Teams directly, which I've already done by triggering this field to yes. If we take a look at the Microsoft Teams, which I can do so by selecting open in Teams here, we can see that they create the Microsoft Teams for me. This is also going to show my Teams list, of course, but I can access it easily by coming here. I have files, and then I have a project details tab. So for those users that are big on working in Teams and never leaving there, they actually can manage their entire project directly from Teams. They go to the team that they basically go in PPM360, create a team for their project, and then they can utilize this project details tab to go and update information. So I could say this is on hold, save, and that's going to be reflected here, as you can see there. Now we also have this planner sync trigger button. As you can see, it's currently on no. If I trigger this to yes, in my tasks area here, when I begin to assign tasks to users now, they're going to receive a notification of that task assignment. Additionally, that task is also going to appear in their My Tasks area in Planner. So if I navigate to my Planner area here, we're going to see that I'm going to receive a notification that I've been assigned to a task for the project here in a minute. I'm going to be able to manage the progress of my task here. So if I put this from in progress, if I put that task to in progress from here, it's going to read back to my schedule as 50% complete. Now, the reason why we have this as a trigger button is because it's important to note that not every single project may want to utilize this. So we allow the project manager to have that power. Of course, if this is something that you want to implement across all projects in your company, we would simply set this field default to yes, and then hide that field so it's automatically done for every single project. We have found, however, that there are such use cases where, for example, you might have a 20-hour task and let's say there's been 2 hours complete on that task. You would rather the person assigned to that task go in and utilize this percent complete column in tasks here to put, 25% or however much percent would equal to 2 hours there. So therefore, they have more granular control over that task instead of the person just managing it from planner, putting 50% complete, and it reading back as 10 out of the 20 hours are completed, which can be a little misleading. Therefore, it's very, very valuable to have as an option here to use planner sync or not. We also have here program and portfolios assignments, and we're going to take a look at our portfolios and program fields here in a bit, and we're going to see that I've assigned this to the aerospace program and portfolio real estate investments portfolio. We're going to see that I have appended, or how Microsoft would call this permission, appended this project to these programs or portfolios, meaning my financials information here is going to roll up to the financials for this program and portfolio and other information as well. And my schedule summary here, I have my plan start and plan finish date. As we can see, these two areas below are pulling from my actuals. So in my tasks, we can see that the start date will be 7/31, the end date is 8/14. So we can see these are actual dates. This is a good reference point for users so they can see at the time that I started this project, what was the plan. And it looks like I'm currently ahead of schedule, which is great. We move on to our business case tab here. We have an area for business case tab, and this is utilizing a rich text field. This rich text field can be applied to any of the text fields across the project. And this rich text field is going to allow people to add some notes. You can see here in red, I can highlight something in green, I can bold things. I can even add an attachment to a specific area. So this is a simple thing to do in the background. So we've gone ahead and add one rich text field in the business case. Of course, during the requirements phase, if you decide that you want all the project charter tabs to be rich text, that's an easy change as well. Now we have our project charters tab here. I mentioned intake before, and typically intake will have these fields such as description, problem statement, project objective, and when the project gets created, these would automatically come in. The value in that is it saves the project manager time, so they're not having to recreate that information. In our status tab here, we've gone ahead and added a Power Automate workflow, which is called copy status report. Now, what this is going to do, as we can see, is I took this status report and I created it. And let's say the following week, I basically have my text fields for my narratives the same as well as my summary KPIs, but I still need to create a new status report, right? So what I did is I triggered this field copy status report to yes. And what it did is there's a workflow that works in the background, and it automatically created me a second status report here. Basically, the name initially was copy Stella new status report 1. And as you can see here, it had all the same values. It even copied my narrative fields over as well. I then went in and renamed it to 2. And as we can see here, this one has not been copied. So I also updated the reporting date as well, I believe. Yes, I did update the reporting date. So it's 8/14. Let's say I'm ready to create a new one. I can come in here and switch this to yes, save and close. And now there's something working in the background that's going to copy the status report. Now, once this gets copied, I'm going to show you an additional workflow we've also added in the status report table. And that is going to be the submitted to field. In the submitted to field, we can see that there it is, copy of Stella's new status report number 2. I'm going to go in and say Stella's new status report number 3. Now, I want to submit this to someone, so I'm going to go ahead and say submit to myself. What this is going to do is this workflow is actually going to send me an email where I'm going to receive like just a nice email with like a table, and it's going to show me the status indicators, and it's going to show me the narratives, and it's also going to have a link back to the project as well. And that goes to whoever's putting the submitted to field. We have had users say, can I put multiple users in the submitted to field? And that answer is yes. We would simply change that to a multi-user lookup field. So it would go to all those people. Now, there is a control on there that we would need to change if you wanted to go to sequentially people. The way we would make that change is that basically it would go to all those people at once. But if you wanted to go to people sequentially, there's a way to do that, but it'd be a little different. You go ahead and save and close here, and we're going to move on to our financials. We haven't made any recent changes to our financials recently, but as you know, as Aaron mentioned, we do have a whole Financials 360 application that we are working to improve. If that is something you're interested in, you can always reach out to Charlene for a demo on that as well. Now, in our resources tab, I'm going to see the resources that have been assigned to my tasks, as you can see here. So I have tasks assigned to Allison, Charlene, Aaron, as you can see here. And if I go to resources here, I can see the role that each person is playing here. That one change we have made here, an update, is we've added this role column. Microsoft's out of the box tool has some columns here that are really not that useful, so we've gone ahead and changed this viewer, this update. Users by default, when they get added to a task, they're going to get assigned with their default role in the system, which we'll see in the resources area. Now, I can simply come in here and change the role of someone by simply going like this and updating her role here. Now, Erin's playing the role of a civil engineer on my project. This is going to summarize the tasks assignments here, so we can see Allison is playing the role of a civil engineer. Her first task starts on 8/1. Her last one finishes on 8/14. She's assigned to a total of 16 hours, of which she's completed none so far. And her resource manager is actually not assigned. Now, I do want to talk about one update that we're currently working on, which hasn't been released quite yet, but is going to be coming up in our newer solution, hopefully by the end of the year. That update is basically the ability to send resource requests. The way it would work is that we would select on someone's name here. Basically, I go in to do all my task assignments, and when I'm ready to get approval for that person to work on my project, I would select their name here. I could run this flow area here. Basically, I'd run a specific flow. It would send that information to whoever's the resource manager and say, Allison is going to play the role of a civil engineer on Stella's test plan from this date to this date for a total of this many effort hours. They would also have a link to the project to come in into the task assignments and more information. And from that email, they'll have an approve button. Would have an additional column here called approval status. It would say not yet requested, or approved and rejected, and so on. The project manager would then receive a notification that that resource has been approved for their project. If rejected, then the project manager would also be notified, and they would have to either update the information and resend that request, or they would have to replace that person entirely in their project, depending on the resource manager's comments. Now, in the tasks area here, as you can see, we do have one other update that has also been applied to this current updated solution. Now, for those of you that are familiar with a premium plan, you're going to be very familiar with basically this is a premium plan embedded into our tasks tab. You'll know that with premium plans, you have the ability to create up to 10 custom task fields. However, those task columns are typically applied at the local level. That means that if I go in and I create a custom task field called completed date, and it's a date field, I have to create that each time for each new project because it's created at that local level only for that specific project. With our new solution during the requirements phase, you do have the ability to determine, for example, I want a new field called completed date, and I want it to apply to all projects. And then you can set or text field or any of the fields that are available here. So text, date, number, yes, no, or choice. And you have the ability to say, I want the schedule template applied to even have like a predetermined value as well. Now keep in mind, users have up to 10 custom task fields. So something important to note is that if you do choose to apply 2 global custom task fields to all projects, then the user would start off with, only 8 custom task fields that they now have. It does limit them down. But of course, if it's such an important field that needs to be created for every single project, then that really isn't important. It's just something that I wanted to note. Now, one of our most exciting features I'm really excited to show you is our task baselines feature. Now, we created this because we had multiple customers actually that needed the ability to create multiple baselines. And unfortunately, in the tasks tab, Microsoft only provides you the ability to create one baseline throughout your schedule. If you want to create a second, you have to delete that existing baseline and then create a new one. The value in this is that you can set baselines throughout your project. So for example, if there's a requirement in your project process that makes users say, at the planning phase, set a baseline, at the execution phase, set another baseline, or whatever the project process may be, you can set multiple baselines here. And the way this workflow works is we have a create baseline trigger here. When I trigger this to yes, it's going to create a new baseline for me. Let's go ahead and do that. So we can see one baseline has been set, and that baseline was set on July 31st, as you can see here. And we can see that baseline information down here below. I'm going to go ahead and create a new baseline. Create baseline and select yes. Now, the first part in our workflow, if I switch to baseline 2, is it's going to start to populate this table. As I press refresh, I'm going to see that start to come in there. And we're going to see this begin to populate. It's looking at my current task information, and it's populating its baseline task and baseline finish here. Anything that says project task next to it is the current value. You can see that's working on creating there. And the next step in the workflow after it's copied all the tasks over, which looks like it's done, is it's now going to look at these two fields and it's going to update this current baseline number to 2 because the most recent baseline I've set is number 2. It's also going to update this current baseline date to today because the date that this baseline was set was today. If we go ahead and hit refresh here, go back to test baselines, we can see that that's been done. So 2/8/14/2025. Yes, Jean, did you have a question?
Hi, Stella. Yeah, I'm a little confused about what a baseline is. If you don't mind redefining that, or if you don't have time within the call, that's perfectly fine.
No,
But it seems like this is automation related.
yeah, absolutely. So a baseline is basically capturing a screenshot of the way your schedule currently looks. That way, if there's changes, whether it be to the date or to the effort hours, we can capture those here. So this is my baseline. This is a screenshot of what my baseline schedule currently is. So this summary subtask 1 is 7:31 to 7:31, right? But and this is my current dates here. So let's say next week this, effort even goes up and the dates change. I can compare that. I can compare this baseline start here to baseline start project task here. And we've even had customers add a variance in here. So a variance like date. So basically it would look at what the initial start was and what the current start was and say, -4 days or +4 days. So there's like a 4-day difference. So the best definition of it is the screenshot of your schedule at a specific time at the time
Okay.
at that baseline. Does that make sense?
Yes. So it's 100% for timeline tracking, but it's not for like rollback to like previous versions, like
No,
version control.
no,
Okay.
no, unfortunately not. It's more like to assess and analyze like where things may have increased in time or where tasks are being delayed.
Okay. Yep. No, that makes sense. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I definitely should have provided that definition. Sorry for.
I'm sure you did, and there's a lot
No,
of
no, I didn't.
information.
I
Great
didn't. You didn't miss
information.
it. I promise. I didn't. I definitely should have provided that. So I'm sorry about that.
No worries. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So any other questions on task baselines? Yes, Leanna.
We go. Sorry, guys, I was muted. So is there a way, and sorry, I also apologize. I had someone else come into my office, but is there a way to sync these tasks and deadlines, project timelines with your Outlook?
Yes, there is. That would be a modification to the workflow, but there is. It's we would need specific permissions from your company to basically like get into the user's Outlook schedules and add that on there. It is a bit of a process, but the answer is yes, it is possible. Now, a question you have to ask yourself is like, I'm assuming that you'd want the tasks to show up on their Outlook calendar.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, depending on how much your users are assigned to tasks, that could be quite a lot, you know? So I think that would be something like an idea I want to give like a little more thought to or discussion around. It's definitely possible for sure, but it can get quite overwhelming to have, log in the morning and see 25 tasks along with any meetings you might have scheduled that day.
Right. No, I totally hear that. I think too, it's like, I think it's more so the deadline of the thing. And also, so I use Planner specifically just to see like kind of all of my meetings for that day. I like brain dump each day, and allot time for like, team interruptions and kind of all of that stuff. But I'm not able to put like specific times to meetings. Is that a capability as well? And that could be linked to Outlook?
Yes, that is possible, and that would make a lot of sense. That would, like I said, being very useful. So like the due date of a task, right? Just a quick notification on Outlook saying, "Hey, this task is due today." Yes, that's absolutely possible, and I think that would be very valuable.
Okay, great. So that is possible. And then, as I said, with like timed meetings, right? The meeting is at 10 a.m., 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Currently, Planner only has the ability to put in a date. Is it possible to put in times as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
Okay, times. All right, and is that another like special permission or special request that will need to be added?
Well, when we're touching Outlook at all, like so this is built with Power Platform, which is Microsoft, right? So like it integrates really well. So like as far as like sending an email notification that someone's been assigned to a task, that's not a special permission. But when you start touching the Outlook calendar, that's a specific permission that would be needed from your company. I know that for sure.
Okay.
So basically anything touching the Outlook calendar would need special permission. And basically just like your admin team like turning off something for this specific effort. It's not like they'd have to turn it off at like a company-wide level. It would be specifically for this solution.
Okay, got it. And then being able to add the times to a particular task, like a particular thing that I'm adding to Planner, is that already an option that I can
No,
do?
no, it's definitely customization.
Okay, customization. Okay, got it. And we would reach out to you, or would that also be through the company, through our company?
We could do it, but we would need like your team to apply specific coding to our solution in order to allow it to happen. But yeah,
Okay.
we could definitely do it for your team. I'm not sure if your team has that capabilities or developer who's able to do that, but we could definitely do it. I would recommend scheduling a conversation with Charlene, and Charlene, I would get Neil involved on that one because he would have more Neil and Jason on that. Those are like our top developers here. I know that they've done something similar.
Okay, great.
So Neil's
Okay,
actually, sorry, Neil's our senior solutions architect. Jason's our top developer.
awesome. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Good questions. We love questions here. Okay. So those are our task baselines. I'm going to go ahead and move on to risks. So as you can see here, our UI has been updated. So for those of you familiar with our last ones, it was like a simple grid. Just for reference, this is like the simple likeness of it that it was before. As you can see here, now we have a board and a grid view, and our grid view is a little updated. So let's go ahead and go into this. We can see that this is, if we look down here, we can see this is category and it's currently living in the resources. I can update the field for this risk that I've created simply by dragging and dropping it over. And if we look now, I can see the category is updated to budget. So I really love this UI view because everyone loves to drag and drop, right? So obviously you determine during the requirements phase is if you want to see here. So this is currently grouped by category, but if we look at issues, we can see issues is grouped by we'll look at that in a minute. But basically you determine, so you can group by risk state, basically whatever makes sense for you. Like I think probably what makes most sense what I've had customers do is risk state. That way you can come in here and just manage like, okay, this risk is now active and I can drag and drop it closed or on hold and you can just drag and drop it over that way. So you would determine that. Now let's go ahead and open up a new risk to see what this looks like. So here's our form for a risk. So if we create a new risk, this is what we'd get and we'd fill in all of these values. Now something we've added to our new solution is a convert risk to issue workflow. This is this trigger button here. And basically what I would do is I'd come in here and I'll trigger this to yes. And what that's going to do is it's going to look at like the name, the category, the state, the description. It's going to carry whoever's assigned to, the due date. And it's going to carry all of that over. It's going to look at that information. It's going to create a new issue for me in my issues table. And then it's going to look back and delete the risk after it's been fully created. Now, what's the value in doing this, you may ask? So a good use case for this might be, for an example, if I have 5 people on my team and it's the start of my week, things are due by the end of the week, and I have 3 people out with COVID. Okay, maybe the other 2 people can get it done. I'm halfway through my week. Now the other 2 people are out with COVID. This is officially increased from a risk to an issue because my project timeline is officially affected. So instead of having to spend time copying over the description, going and manually creating a new issue, what I can simply do is use this convert to issue, trigger it to yes, and save. And that is going to create a new issue for me in my issues table. Now, it's very common that this is actually the case, but right now we just have people basically going in and manually creating an issue and then deleting the risk, or maybe keeping the risk. So if you want to keep the risk and not have that deleted after the issue's been created, that can also be modified to the workflow as well. We've just found the most common situation is people don't want to keep that risk once it's been escalated. So this is an escalation workflow, is what I like to call. It's very valuable. We've had a lot of people at it. We actually had a customer like about 2 years back that initially came up with this idea, and now we've proposed it to a lot of people. They really liked it. So now we've just gone ahead and added it to our out-of-the-box solution. Of course, all these upgrades we've made, you can take or leave. It's very simple for us to hide it. So if you decide you don't want that, we can simply just hide it in this solution. So do keep that in mind. If you're like, I don't want to have that on there, we simply hide it. It's not a change to our, it's just a simple thing that we would hide. And then if you want to grow into it later, we can simply expose this field later to make that work. But of course, if this field isn't here, that workflow doesn't even work. Now moving over to issues, which is having some issues right now. So our issue is going to have the same UI here as risks. Not sure what's going on with it right now, but it's going to have the same UI as you can see here. So the same concept, but our issues form is going to look a little different. So if I go new issue here, this is what a new issue would look like. Now with our changes, you can see here, if I create a new change, I can select a new change here. We've also made an upgrade to our solution here to include a change request workflow now. Because of course, what would a change be if you can't send it for approval, right? So you'd create the change. After it's been created, you would trigger this approval to requested. It would look to whoever's in the assigned to field, and whoever's not assigned to field is going to receive an approval email that they can manage either via email or through the approvals area they'll see here. They'll receive like the description, some other information that you would determine what you want the email to show during the requirements, and a link into the change as well. Whoever's not assigned to would review it, and then they could select approve or reject from the email or from their approvals area. Once they do that, the PM is going to receive a notification of that update, and this approval will then switch to approved or reject, and this field will be locked. Keep in mind, if you trigger this to requested and there's no one in the assigned to fields, that won't work. This is another situation where this assigned to field can be changed to a multi-user lookup, but once again, it has to be a batch approval. So all people receive them at the same time, and then we can determine within the workflow if one or multiple people need to select approve in order for it to be approved. Multi-series approval is possible here, but we would add additional fields. So you'd have like approver 1, approver 2, approver 3. You would fill all those 3 in, and then they would trigger it, and then it would go in that order. Our decisions, we haven't made any changes to, but we'll still go ahead and take a look. So I believe we actually have added comments, details, and impact. So we actually used to have just comments, and we've also added details and impact here as well. Of course, these are currently required fields, which can easily be made unrequired during the requirements phase. With our lessons learned here, the biggest question I get during requirements or demos is there a way to see all lessons learned across all projects? The answer to that is we currently have in process, we're working on a lessons learned report. So if we look at our reports here, there's no changes here, so I didn't plan on covering this too much, but I do want to just touch on this here. We do have 15 out-of-the-box reports that comes with our solution. This is our status report. It's pretty inclusive. As you can see here, I have risks changes, those fields that we filled in for a status report, my KPIs, summary information, financials information, task schedule information, and key contacts. We also have a risks dashboard, an issues dashboard, and a changes dashboard. And these are going to show me all of the risks, issues, and changes across all of the things in the system. What we're currently working on right now is a lessons learned dashboard. So basically that would show you all the lessons learned in the tool. Alternatively, you can add a lessons learned area here on the left-hand nav, and when you go to it, it would basically show you the way you have in plans here. It would say lesson learned name, the plan it's related to, and what other information you want to include on your view. That can be something we would customize for you guys during the requirements phase, or you actually learn how to do that in admin training as well, which is included in our solution as well. We give you admin training. So basically in the admin training, you would come in and learn how to update choice values, add a new tab, add a new form, apply business rules, manage the left-hand navigation, a lot of other things. It doesn't go super in depth onto workflows, but it does teach you how to manage the workflows that exist in the tool, but not how to create new ones. We do offer that for training, but it's outside of the solution, but it can be like an add-on if that's something you want and have a developer you feel like would be familiar with picking that up easily. Now, I touched on portfolios and programs, so I just quickly want to touch on those before we wrap up. If I go to my active portfolios, I can see my active portfolios here. If I click into my real estate investment portfolio here, I can see some general information. If I go to portfolio financials here, I can see my financials area as well as my projects. Now in programs, we actually have a feature that we're working on getting into portfolios as well. And that's called our timeline feature that I want to touch on. So as you can see, this timeline feature here is going to show me my projects, start date, finish date, progress, and then it's going to show me a nice timeline here. So it's going to show me this one is red. It currently has an overall health of in trouble. This one's yellow. It has an overall health at risk. And this one's blue. So the overall health is not applicable. There's not currently an overall health set. In programs, you also have this general area, which is a little more lengthy, a status area as well, financials, and the projects tab as well.